I'm sure people have asked you about that. What do you think about the hold versus sell question for an entrepreneur?
Years ago, a very wise man came to me as we were looking at selling our business. We were actually running a process and going through the management presentations, and highly regarded individual, someone I look up to, in extreme ways. And he's still to this day one of my heroes. And he told me the story of his father, who was the CEO of a very, very well-known individual who started some pretty massive businesses. And but yet he was a lonely man. The owner was. And so his father one night was called by this man, and it was Christmas Eve, and he said, "Come over to my house." And he's like, "It's Christmas Eve." He's like, "Yeah, I know, but come over to my house, and I need to talk to you right now." And he was all alone, Christmas Eve. And so this man who I revere, his father, goes over to the home of this owner of these businesses, and he said, "Do you know why I don't give any equity away? It's because it's all about protecting the base. Because I want to give all this money away. It's all about being philanthropic and about being, giving in all ways that I can." And I don't know necessarily if he was in the right spirit of how he was saying it, but one thing he said was, "You've got to protect the base." And my base were all these businesses. And so this man, as he's telling the story to me about his father and this other man, he looked at me and he said, "Nick, protect the base. You need to protect the base." And I thought he was telling me, "Nick, don't sell the business."
Startups with Stu is a podcast for anyone living or wanting to live the startup life, either as a founder or a team member. Your host, Stuart Draper, was a 9-time Inc. 5000 honoree before age 40. This show dives deep into the exhilarating world of entrepreneurship with guests that are seeking advice from Stu for their startup or business owners that want to share their entrepreneurial journey. Listeners always walk away with actionable ideas of what to do to take their startup to the moon. Startup life can feel like a roller coaster ride. And with Startups with Stu, you're likely to turn your roller coaster ride into a rocket ship ride. Get ready to uncover the secrets to startup success from visionary founders and savvy investors who've transformed groundbreaking ideas into thriving ventures.
This episode is brought to you today by PodUp. PodUp.com is the leading all-in-one AI-powered podcasting software. If you've ever considered having a podcast, want to get started, go to PodUp.com and check it out. Today we have with us Mr. Nick Greer, most known for the company Built Bars that he started, and he's working on a lot of other new neat things, including Spilt, which he'll talk about today. Nick, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Stu. Good to be here.
It's going to be fun. So, business finance major from BYU. That's where your education background comes from, right?
Yeah, but they barely let me in on my fourth try. So I don't know how much that really means by getting that degree, but I think they felt a little sad and sorry for me. They finally let me in on my fourth try, and they're like, "All right, we'll give you that degree." So yeah, but no, proud of it. Proud to be able to graduate from Brigham Young.
Cool. And a supporter since then. I think one of your most famous moves is your NIL deal that you did with the BYU football team.
No, it was a lot of fun. 3 years ago. That's in the past. You can call it that 15 minutes of not so much fame, but it was a lot of fun. When you do things for the right reasons, not to get any type of accolades or glory or whatsoever. I mean, it was good. It was fun. It was fun to watch, but it was fun to see the impact it had on those boys, especially. And gosh, those boys are so good. Such good young men, such incredible future leaders, and it was an absolute honor and blessing to be able to participate in helping them feel more confident in who they are, and hopefully build a little more confidence of what they can, who they can become.
You led from this idea of like, no, I literally really would love to help the BYU football players, and so the benefits for the brand come as like good karma. Is that what you'd say?
I guess. I mean, really,
it really wasn't the aim. It wasn't an aim.
No, in all honesty. No. It was all about like, okay, like what does coach need? And then when I heard that he is constantly praying to figure out the walk-ons, I'm like, well, what do you mean? And then I start finding out that there was such a need for those 36 walk-ons, and the fact that they don't have their schooling paid for. They're fighting day in and day out. They're blood, sweat, and tearing it out there on the field, on and off the field. Some of them had families, children, married, I should say. And it was like one of those things you start like, okay, all right, let's help out 5 of them. What if we helped out 5 of them? Let's go in there and help out 5 of these players. How much is that going to cost? And they're like, well, if you do 5, I'm like, I feel bad for the others. Well, let's at least are there top 10? Let's go top 10. What if we did the top 10 walk-ons? They're like, these guys are the studs and they are so needed, and we could have other players vote on it. And they're like, these guys deserve it. And then it turned in like, I can't do 10. And then I asked, well, how many walk-ons are there again? And I find out there's 36. I'm like, oh crap, 36. You know what? We got to help them all out. This is a team effort. We can't just do part of this. NIL is not about just the I, it's about the us. And so it's like, let's define this in our terms as being, this is about all, about the entire team, not just about one individual on the team. And boy, that was awesome. That was cool to see what happened there. And everything was so organic, so real, so raw, not orchestrated, not planned out. And it was like, okay, that's pretty cool. That pulled at the heartstrings of a lot of people across the entire world. And when you see it, being broadcasted in different parts of the world and hitting over 100 million views, I believe, from what someone told me, I'm thinking, all right, hopefully that helped encourage or motivated someone else to go do something good in their community and, in other ways. And that feels good. That feels good. And hopefully we can do a whole heck of a lot more of that.
That's awesome. It probably still has some cool ripple effects. I know one of them is that I actually, Stu Kent, my business that I ran from age 30 to 40, signed a deal with Oklahoma State's professor to write our NIL courseware so that college athletes could go through a course on how to utilize their name, image, and likeness. And there's mention of the built BYU case study. So I just commend you for that. It's super cool. I think another ripple effect, BYU is 4-0 in football this year. Super fun and exciting to see that, especially with the fun win on Saturday night at home. Wasn't that great?
That was awesome.
Yeah. So you started your career, your entrepreneurial career with One-on-One, and then Greer Co. and Scipio and Built, and now you've got this new thing, Spilt, going on. So walk me through the entrepreneurial journey. Did it go straight out of college, by the way? Like you graduate with your finance degree and go straight to One-on-One?
No, it started when I was in 3rd grade selling baseball cards, and started like trading baseball cards, selling fireworks illegally, doing people's yards, painting their houses, painting the address, street, addresses on their curbs, selling milk and cookies to construction workers outside, and tell my mom, hey, I'll pay her back. And holy cow, I could go like endless amounts of ideas as I was growing up, and stuff that worked, stuff that didn't. I mean, even the firework, I'm in Arizona selling fireworks illegally as a kid. And I think my dad can neither confirm nor deny if he was part of that as far as lending me any type of money. And there was a kid down the street that bought $350, I think, worth of fireworks and had me light them off. And we accidentally lit a lady's backyard and her entire backyard on fire, and her back porch even on fire. The post got burnt, and spraying the hose, and she was panicking and saying she was going to call the police. I'm thinking, I'm screwed. Like, it's over. Like, I'm done for. They're going to throw me in jail. And so there's all sorts of risks throughout my life, always taking. I will tell you, but
you could say, Nick, that your entrepreneurial career started off with a bang.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's good. That was good dad joke. Good dad joke. Good job. How many kids do you have, Stu? How many kids?
I've got 4, ages 17 to 5.
Dude, they should be so proud. They should be so proud of their dad. No, it's good. It did start off with a bang. How many kids
for you, by the way?
7 kids. 7 kids and 2 little grandkids. So
good for you.
That's
good. The true success. Nick has had an incredible career of business success. Nick, wouldn't you say the kids, the grands, that's the real success in life?
Oh, it's the best. It's the absolute best. I mean, if you're thinking about having any kids out there, just do it. Do it. And if you don't know how to figure it out financially, you'll figure it out. I promise you. I mean, one of our first businesses, after I had 3 businesses before fail, one-on-one, after those 3 failures, we started one-on-one and had $2,000 and 2 little kids. And I remember we had 1 car at the time, and my dad then said, "Hey, I've got this old 1974 GMC Suburban. Do you want it? You can buy it off me for $20. And I'm like, "You got it." And it was from Arizona. I had an Arizona license plate on it called Bad Girl. So we called it the Bad Girl, and I kept that license plate on the front, then put the Utah license plate on the back, just to remember the Bad Girl. And big old 454 engine in it. Every gas station you saw, you had to fill up with gas, but at least they can get my wife from our home in American Fork to her mom's home in the middle of the winter in American Fork, like 5 blocks away. And so it wasn't like a ton of gas, but man, you smell like gas fumes when you drove in it. We got down to $126 in our account, 2 little kids, this first business. What are we going to do? Are we going to survive? And boy, did we ever survive. And I would tell you, I know that the Lord totally, he did so much and continues to do that throughout the entirety of my business and our career and our lives. And he's like, all right, here's the way. Here's the blueprint. Here's the map every single step of the way. And I really believe it stemmed from the faith of having these children and believing that, okay, we will provide, and because he'll provide a way. And it was beautiful, for me and a wonderful example for my wife and I to see that, when you truly consecrate your time and your energies to doing the right things, yeah, he's going to provide a way. And it's a real principle. And it works. So put it to test. I promise you'll see what happens.
I love that. Thank you so much, by the way, for bringing the Lord into the conversation, because as I watch athletes who get in the end zone and kneel and recognize God and that get interviewed after a game and give God the glory, I'm inspired by that, and I wish more with that throughout my career so far. I had taken time to do that. So I appreciate that in you, Nick. Thanks for your example there.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. So you said you had these failures. One-on-one is the first job listed on your LinkedIn. I'm guessing because there was no LinkedIn with those first jobs that you had. I challenge you, and I need to go back and do this to my own profile as well. We should go add the failures to the resume before those wins happen.
I know, maybe I should go on LinkedIn in the first place. I don't go on LinkedIn. I don't know when the last time I updated my profile was. I'm a little bit more of a believer that LinkedIn's turned a little bit into something that it wasn't intended to be, nor what I thought it was, but that's okay. How it's being used in a different way, but maybe I should list all my failures, and that's what all I should list, and I'll take everything else off and just talk about failure, because there's so many failures. I'm still failing in so many different ways, and that's what keeps us humble, and that's what keeps us real, right? Yeah. And that keeps us learning and growing and becoming who we need to become, and that's exactly what needs to happen.
I love that. On this show, Startups with Stu, I've had founders that have raised money. I've had founders that have exited their business and sold for millions. And one of the things that seems to be a common thread, Nick, is that a lot of entrepreneurs that are successful started with a bootstrapped service-based business first and then found a way into product business later. Your career goes from like a one-on-one, I think, has some level of service. Was it a SaaS business?
No, it was a marketing business that we were generating leads. And then I ended up buying thousands, in fact, about 7,000 plus domains and websites over the years. And it was like my digital real estate. And I love real estate. I love it to this day, but I'm like, wow, I can buy these domains, and especially these long tail domains where people were searching for traffic back in the days in their browser. They weren't going to a search engine. They were just typing in, I want to go back to school.com. And so I would go buy, I want to go back to school.com, and I would create, we created millions and millions of pages of content that essentially would create that organic content to create the leads for all the given schools and universities and colleges and vocational schools that we were generating leads for students who wanted to go back to school. So it was a different type of concept. So was it a SaaS business? No. But was software involved in what we did and how we managed it and how we managed all the content, on the back end? 1000%.
So no professor, no textbook was going to teach you that idea and give you that business model.
No.
Because it was all so new when you were graduating college. You're like at the beginning of the .com. I mean, before it's even a bubble, right? Like that's when you were graduating college, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, listen, I mean, what we were doing in 0102, in fact, I went to, he was the director of the school at the time. And he told me, when I told him I want to apply for this entrepreneurship scholarship, and he kind of chuckled. He's like, okay, I read your application. He goes, I will tell you, this business will not succeed. It will fail. And I looked at him like, okay. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I cannot wait to prove you wrong. And I end up launching that business, and 8.5 years later, we sold it off, and it was a great day. And I so wanted to sing that Toby Keith song to him. How do you like me now? But I didn't. I held off. I'm like, I sucked up my pride. It was a lot of pride. I still try to suck it up today. But it was good. It was good to show that, like, yeah, no textbook or professor. Even you may get feedback from individuals, whether you're starting a business, whether you're inside a business, you're an intrapreneur, an entrepreneur. I would tell you, there are going to be people who give you feedback, and it's going to be fantastic. And you can take bits and pieces or all the feedback you get. But there will be times when you get feedback and people will tell you, do this, don't do that, or don't do this, now do this. And I would tell you, if your gut is telling you, no, I have to move forward with what they're telling me not to do, then go follow your gut. And if you end up falling flat on your face, learn that lesson, so be it. How awesome is that? And then go pick up the pieces and move on. But there is nothing better than following those intuitions of your heart, of your mind, of your soul, and that gut of yours, and to say, all right, I feel it. I feel strong. I'm going to attack it. Let's go after it. And that's what I had to do at that one moment in my life when someone was telling me it's going to fail. But I'll still have pity on you, and I'll give you this partial scholarship. So,
what I think is interesting is when someone tells you it will fail, as the idea was presented, as they understand your idea, as they know the resources you have today, maybe that would fail.
Correct.
But that an entrepreneur keeps finding a way to win, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you did.
Yeah. And that's such a good point, Stu. I love that you say that, because possibly the idea that you say would fail, but what they can't tell you is that you will fail. And so what you have to look at is saying, okay, thank you for your feedback. Maybe I need to pivot, but don't let that mean that I'm going to fail or you're going to fail. And that's not what that person is saying. And never, never, ever let anyone tell you that individually. So, and especially don't let yourself tell you that. You look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people are going to like me. And this feels lame, but here we go. And do a little Jack Handy, for yourself, and go attack it. That Saturday Night Live sketch that probably most of the listeners here have no idea what I'm even talking about, but go look that sketch up from Saturday Night Live, and you'll know what I mean.
Okay. Taking a quick break from the episode. Sorry to interrupt, but I have to take a second and thank the great team at Pod Allies that helps me produce this podcast. Startups with Stu is not an easy undertaking. It takes a lot of work and team power to get this thing done. So the team I use for my podcast, podallies.com, go check them out. If you are considering a podcast, if you've thought you have a dream for a show and you want to go make it happen, go to podallies.com and book a strategy call today. I promise you won't regret it. I was 8 episodes published. I was on, I think, my 12th recording with a guest. And that guest was like, hey, I think I'd like to do a podcast. And I introduced him to the Pod Allies team. He's entirely satisfied with the work they're doing for him. That's the beauty of podcasting, right? Like, I'm not out there day in and day out selling podcasting services. I invested in podup.com, the parent company of Pod Allies, and it's been a joy to work with them, but I didn't have to go and sell this $36,000 deal that came from just having a guest on my show. I think one thing that people don't understand with a podcast is there's more value to be had than just likes, listens, shares, follows, etc., subscribers. You're going to get more than that with a podcast. And one of the greatest benefits is the networking that you can do through your show, getting guests on the show. Speaking of the show or shows, let's get back to Startups with Stu in this episode. Forgive my interruption, but if you're interested, go check out podallies.com. You have chosen, so you sold one-on-one, first big payday, and then chosen to keep going. You didn't just go get a beach chair and relax for the rest of life.
I did for 2 weeks and it was terrible. I'm like, this whole like mantra or this paradigm that people live in, believe in, I just want to retire, or I want to make enough money so I can retire and go sit on a beach and sip the pina coladas or whatever it may be, is a bunch of baloney. It's like, are you kidding me? That's not why God created us. He created us to learn. He created us to grow. He created us to stretch ourselves in ways that we've never been stretched before. We've got to get out there and continually stretch ourselves. We got to continually be growing. And so I saw that early on and I said, all right, what am I supposed to do? And I want to attack it, and I want to keep attacking. I want to keep growing. I want to keep becoming. And it's been an all out war, but it's been so good. I'm so grateful. I mean, this has been 14 years now. You know, I was 33 years old. I'm 47 now, but that was 33 years old. I had so much ahead of me, and it was time for me to attack. And I'm going to continue doing that for the rest of my life. I am not going to stop. I'm going to do it differently as I've done over the last 14 years, but I am never going to stop.
Okay, so I got to ask, how many weeks of vacation would you estimate you took then in 2023?
I don't know. I'm still running, companies. I'm still involved. And so It's not like I'm sitting there.
You have to be so involved, right?
Am I taking vacations? Absolutely. Are they more than I've done in the past? Maybe a little bit, but I felt like I've found good balance in my life based upon the stage that I'm at. I mean, even like right now, like I will not start my mornings before 10 o'clock, meaning at the office. I just won't. Because I've got to do different things in the morning to prep me for the rest of the day. And I really try to wrap up by 4 o'clock. And so I pack in my days like crazy at the office. It's like full on, pack it in. And I want to make sure I'm as effective as possible. Well, that 10 to 4 used to be that 8 to 6. And I'm telling you, I think I achieved the same amount today from 10 to 4 as I ever did on 8 to 6, for sure. It's just because I'm learning how to maximize my time. And so same as with the vacations, with the time off, It's like, no, I'm not going to have a business that's going to be dependent upon me every single day. There's no way I'm going to create that. You got to create the autonomy with your team and let them run, let them decide, let them grow. So I can go grow in different ways and help the business grow as much as I possibly can, even on the outside, even not being involved on a day-to-day basis. So that's not necessarily the answer you're looking for of how many days.
No,
but it's
good. It's better. It's better. I love it. I love that. So I like the point you're making around getting to a place where you're you're intentionally building a business where it can run without you when you need it to, and you can be in control of the lifestyle you want to have while still building a business that can grow. So you've built this amazing team for Built. They've done some incredible things. What's the day-to-day life for you as the leader? Like, what things are you taking ownership for? What hats do you still like to wear? Like, you knew when you started one-on-one, you had to wear so many hats, right? Now you don't have to do that. You're more intentional about this, I'm sure now, and able to do that more now. So what's that look like?
I would say back in the day, I made some massive mistakes, and I'm not saying it's completely fixed today, but where everything was centered around me, it was focused on me, it was dependent upon me. Decisions had to be made by me, me. It was so terrible when I look back on that, and I think that becomes a very selfish, power hungry, self-centered, way of thinking. And if you're not careful, when you're trying to even create a product or a brand, You want that brand to speak about me. And so you want me to be at the center of it. You want me to be the voice of it. You want me to be out front, and center with the marketing campaigns or whatever it may be. And I see there's even local companies in a lot of ways that do that. And I think they're doing themselves a disservice. And so I don't want it to, I want it to be just the opposite. I don't want this to be about me. Now, the culture, I know what the culture needs to be like, and I will protect that to the nth degree. The vibe, the feel, the ability to be, to make decisions, big and small, without one individual, myself, having to be around. I want to make sure I continue building off that. I put that hat on constantly. Financially, just making sure all checks and balances are in place. Making sure that's like, okay, how we're managing some of the aspects of the business for the future. Speaking of the future, that's me. I've got to constantly be thinking vision, future. So the less and less I can be in those weeds, like, do not put me in weeds. Absolutely do not put me in weeds. I used to allow myself to be in them. I want to be in every decision. It was even yesterday, we were supposed to be on a call for a new ad agency that we're picking between. And I looked at our chief commercial officer and I just said, listen, I'm like, you got it. She is so dependable, so trustworthy. She's like, you don't want to be on it for this final decision? I'm like, no, I trust your decision. I don't need to be there. And so I decided not to show up to that meeting. And it was a last minute decision, but I realized, wait, this is a bit of a weed. I'm getting a little bit in a weed. Now, I'll be in the decision when it comes to the creative aspect of it and making sure that does it communicate.
Because of the messaging. Right?
Because of the messaging is like, let's just make sure we're on track, but I'm not going to be there during that whole entire process. I don't know if that's the answer you're searching for, but very important for myself to allow others to really grow. And so my day-to-day really is focusing on that and putting those hats on constantly, and then always checking the vibe, the pulse, the feel. What's the feel? I'm a feel guy. What does it feel like? What does it feel like? What does it feel like? If the feeling's off, all right, tweak the feel. How do we change the feel? How do I improve the feel? What can I do? Like, where do I need to actually pick up these pieces? And so, anyhow.
Okay, so is it a daughter or son that has brought you the first grandkids?
So I have 3 kids married, but it's my second child, our daughter, who has 2 granddaughters, or 2 daughters.
Okay.
Therefore, our 2 granddaughters. We just celebrated her oldest 3rd birthday yesterday, so that was fun.
Fun. Yeah, that's awesome. The reason I bring this up is I want to frame the question around your young son-in-law, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that he wanted to do entrepreneurship. And let's say that he comes to you and he's like, Nick, I want to start this business. I have an idea. Can you give me your 3 keys to success in startup? I want to grow this thing. Can you give me your 3 keys to startup success?
Yeah.
What are you going to tell him? I don't know if that's his jam, and that's okay if it's not. It doesn't matter. The reason I frame it that way is because I want you to think about it as if you were telling a loved one, not just the world or any entrepreneur, but specifically like someone you really care about. What are you going to tell them are the 3 keys to success in startup growth?
I don't know if it's the 3 keys, but I may ask 3 questions. And so let me frame this more in a question/key, maybe mindset.
I like it. Okay.
I would ask them right off the bat, what does your gut say? And I would really try to listen to understand what his gut says, and I would try to read him. I had my daughter and daughter-in-law both come to me and ask me, about starting a business. So I asked them, what does your gut say? And the second question, in fact, I'll even bring this to that conversation, what I asked them, and I correlate that to pretending this was also him coming to me at the same time. And when I hear what their gut says, I realize, is their heart really into it? And then I ask, are you prepared to run with this for the next 25 years? Because then what I really want to find out, is this a hobby? Is this just like a quick lifestyle? Or is this like, are you ready for the grind? And then the third question I'd ask them is that, are you prepared for the grind? Are you prepared for the sacrifice? Not to scare them off, but I have to get them thinking about what it's really going to take to really like sacrifice, to give up things that maybe are convenient today, that are nice today, i.e. a paycheck, health benefits, time off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so then it's like, okay, if they're ready for that, then this is what I would then bring it into more of the principles of, okay, you are going to have an idea, and your idea will not end up being what your business is a year, 2 years, 5 years from now. And that's okay. But right now, I want you to go create the fastest win you can create. So go create a victory, a win. What does a win look like for you right now? Let's define what that win looks like. Great. Now, once you get that win, I want to create this momentum, and then we're going to find ways of what is working, what is not working, and we're going to go put more fuel on what is working. And then all of a sudden, it's just more fuel, 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 fuel. We just keep pouring it on, dousing it like crazy. And that's when my daughter and daughter-in-law came to me. When I asked those questions to them, I realized they weren't ready for that. And if they end up listening to this, which I don't know if they will, I apologize, but if they do, I would say, sweetheart, I love you to death. And I can't wait for us to come up with that idea together that you're so gung-ho about. Because starting a business is not about, a hobby. It's not about like, oh, I want to create this lifestyle. Let the lifestyle follow, like the lifestyle will follow. But if you're doing it for the lifestyle sake, you're going to kind of dip your toes into it. You're not going to totally submerge yourself into it. And to be successful at a business, you got to think and submerge your whole entire heart, mind, and soul into everything to make it work.
100%. Yeah, that's definitely spot on, because there's going to be a roller coaster ride with what feels like a lot more lows than highs in the beginning days. And if you're not passionate about it, it's too easy to give up. Yeah. And you can't give up. You got to keep going. And the only way you're going to keep going is if you've found this is something you really care about. You really feel like God wants you to do it. There's passion behind it. And when things are hard, you're going to keep finding a way to win. Yeah, I could not agree more. When I started StuKent, when you talk about that first win, when I started GetFoundFirst.com, my brother-in-law had just had 3 record-breaking months of new patients to his dental practice. And then I could use his testimonial to go get other dentists to let me do their Google ads. Wow. And so that was my first win, and it allowed me to go get more. And it gets easier. Every win starts to get a little easier. You get more resources behind you as you have more wins. At StuKent, BYU is a top 20 business school, and they were our first customer, and they were happy, and they were going to use it for a second semester. Wow. And so getting Oregon State and University of Minnesota was that much easier because I could mention that BYU was happily using it and would be a testimonial for me. And so find those first wins. I love that message. That's great. We have 7 fun minutes left. I want to get the most out of it that we can. I think a lot of listeners are already entrepreneurs. They've been asked the question, so what does an exit look like? I'm sure people have asked you about that. And what do you think about the hold versus sell question for an entrepreneur?
Years ago, a very wise man came to me as we were looking at selling our business. We were actually running a process and going through the management presentations, and highly regarded individuals, someone I look up to in extreme ways. And he's still to this day one of my heroes. And he told me the story of his father, who was the CEO of a very, very well-known individual who started some pretty massive businesses. And but yet he was a lonely man. The owner was. And so his father one night was called by this man, and it was Christmas Eve. And he said, "Come over to my house." And he's like, "It's Christmas Eve." He's like, "Yeah, I know, but come over to my house. And I need to talk to you right now." And, he was all alone, Christmas Eve. And so this man who I revere, his father, goes over to the home of this owner of these businesses. And he said, "Do you know why I don't give any equity away? It's because it's all about protecting the base, because I want to give all this money away. It's all about being philanthropic and about being, giving in all ways that I can." And I don't know necessarily if he was in the right spirit of how he was saying it, but one thing he said was, "You've got to protect the base." And my base were all these businesses. And so this man, as he's telling the story to me about his father and this other man, he looked at me and he said, "Nick, protect the base. You need to protect the base." And I thought he was telling me, Nick, don't sell the business. And we're going through these management presentations to sell the business. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I went home that day and I'm like, I'm not supposed to sell the business. That's the base. But I had this overwhelming feeling, no, Nick, the base is the cash and what the business is worth. You need to sell this business and you need to pull that cash out right now. And so that's your base. I'm like, wow, what a paradigm shift. This is 3 days later. I need to sell the business. I need to do it now. Well, I sell the business. 10 days after I sell the business, the industry gets rocked by regulation and the government came out and changed our industry to the nth degree. And it was 10 days after we sold and it crashed and completely changed what our business looked like at that point. And the base I was able to take out, which was the cash, and protect it, and doing what we've been doing for the last 14 years and doing what we're doing today and what we'll do in the future. And I'm so grateful for that advice. And so I would tell you, do you hold? Do you sell? Well, I would tell you, protect the base. Again, I would pass that recommendation off to you. And what does that really mean to you? And how can you use it for good? And how can you use it to lift others? And how can you use it to actually become better, the better person you need to become? And does the base mean you sell it off? Or does the base mean, oh my gosh, I can continue to use this business for good, the cash that's coming from it, allowing others to grow within it. I can step away and allow others to continue to grow it while I actually continue to go do other things, but use this as a foundation to go do other things. And so your base may look completely different, but find out what that base needs to really look like and what it needs to be and how you can protect that base.
Protect the base. That's got to be like the name of this episode then. We'll call it Nick Greer, Protect the Base on the Startups with Stu podcast. So Nick, you mentioned having this man that you revere and appreciate for what he said and done for you. I was going to ask, who are some of your mentors? Who are people that you kind of look to?
You know, early on in my career, for many, many years, my own father, he was so good. Such a good sounding board. Having those sounding boards are key. There were other business leaders, who I love to read autobiographies and biographies of other business owners. And I would say they became a kind of a roundabout mentor without knowing them personally. I remember having a gentleman come into a BYU class and do a lecture series. And, there was tidbits of information that he shared that gave me this visual of what I wanted to create. And because of what he shared, he became a mentor without even realizing it. And I think a lot of times we think we need a mentor. A mentor is someone we can personally talk to one-on-one on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis. I think our mentors can really be those individuals that we allow to be our mentors, to take the good of what they're sharing and what they're providing and allow that to permeate within our hearts to say, okay, you know what? This is good. And when it's good, I want to build off of this. And you know what? I would tell you on a spiritual standpoint, the greatest mentor for me, is the Spirit itself, and really following the inspiration of my father.
You used the code word trust your gut a lot. And I kind of felt myself going, okay, he means like, is the Spirit telling you should move forward with something like this or not?
I would tell you, when you understand how God speaks to you, when you understand how how he communicates to you in such unique, special ways, then it's like, wow, then you keep listening to that, but you act upon that immediately. Practice that immediately. And then you understand my gut, these intuitions, these feelings, the Spirit that's teaching me, okay, there is a higher being that's actually leading me. And I believe in a higher being. And there's going to be others out here that I hope listen to this to say, I don't know if I believe in God. Well, then go believe in some type of higher being, someone greater than you, and realize that someone that's greater than you wants you to do good, wants you to be good, wants you to become something incredible. Then you're like, go find that voice and find who's speaking to you and how this being is speaking to you. And you'll actually start finding, wow, there's 1,000, angels who are speaking to me on the other side, and my ancestors and my family members who are rooting me on, who want me to become the very best me. So when I get to them, they're like, yeah, they're cheering you on, going, dude, you did it. I'm like, yeah, that's life. And that's what it's all about. And that's what we're trying to create. And that's the light we're all trying to bring in this life that hopefully we leave as a legacy to everyone who follows us to realize I want that same light and I want to share that light with everyone I come in contact with.
Amen. I can't agree more. Nick, thank you so much for your message, for your example, for being with us today. We didn't even get to talk about Spilt. There's got to be episode 2 down the road, or part 2 down the road. So, Nick, I appreciate you being with us today.
You got it. Thanks, Stu. Thanks so much.
Hey, founders, entrepreneurs, investors, and other listeners of Startups with Stu. Thank you for listening to this episode today. As I mentioned at the beginning, as I mentioned in the middle, I want to take a second again at the end and say, if you haven't yet and you're considering a podcast, go check out podallies.com. They sure help me a lot with the show. And I am so grateful for all that they do to help me accomplish Startups with Stu and get it out to the world so we can help more founders and take your startup to the moon. Go check out podallies.com and podup.com if you're interested in podcasting at any level.
Thanks for joining me on Startups with Stu. We have big goals to help millions of entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to share it with someone else that needs to hear it, or leave a review. Remember, success is within reach for those who dare to dream big and take action. Until next time, keep pushing forward on your entrepreneurial journey.